welcome to Mysteryland.
Thank you.
First off, what's the history of Audiofreq and the meaning behind your name?
Well, for those that know, I was part of a group called Bioweapon, and that's kind of how it started. Code Black and I started doing hardstyle together, and then through some creative differences, we just kind of split off. That's putting it very mildly. But from there, it's kind of like, look, I still like doing this music. I still want to continue, and I still want to keep on making music. And so, the idea to continue on solo was born. And just brainstorming some names. What could actually, honestly, it started off like this. If they listed stuff alphabetically, what's a name that I could have that's kind of close to the top? I'm honest with you. And it's like, okay, well, if he's got Code Black, I've got to be a B or an A. Okay, I started writing down a few things. Audio. I like audio because I work with audio. When I'm working in a sequencer, instead of just having stuff like loads of MIDI tracks, I bounce a lot of stuff down to audio. What do I do with it? I get a bit freaky with it. Bam, there we go, Audiofreq. And that's how it was.
That's awesome. So, how do you prepare for a set, and what gets you most amped during the performance?
First of all, what gets me most amped is just like hearing the crowd and just seeing, how they're reacting to what I'm doing, and that's what excites me the most. To prepare for a set is kind of like, I don't know. I try and think of where I am in the evening. Am I opening? Am I middle? Am I closing? Because all of those roles are very different and influence how I prepare a set. Because opening, you're warming up stuff. You're not thrashing out the hits. Closing, you don't necessarily need to have the hits, but you can thrash out and be a little bit more rough. Where in the middle, you kind of balance between the two. And so that's kind of how I approach it, like where I'm scheduled in the night, and do I have any new stuff that I want to play, any stuff I want to showcase, and just try and come up with some things that I think would be an interesting journey for a listener to experience, instead of just being the obvious kind of tracks that people hear. Just all right, let's play some stuff that nobody knows, and I like doing that, and stuff that's like a little bit weirder as well. I like throwing some weirder stuff as well.
So we can expect some unreleased?
Oh, definitely, yeah, without a doubt. Like, for those that don't know, I've been working on an album that I hope to release, Q3 this year, and I'll play a couple of bits off it for sure.
So you're from Sydney, right?
Yeah.
So what's the difference between the EDM scene there, or more specifically the hardstyle scene?
Okay. And here, or
yes.
Okay,
or in Europe as well?
I can't speak specifically for EDM, but for hardstyle, it's a pretty healthy growth. It's a bit more on the sort of the commercial side of things. It's just a little bit more fluffy and trancy, which I think is very much in parallel to what happens with North America. The age for the people that go to hardstyle parties is very, very similar. In Europe, it's a little bit older, they're a little bit more mature, and they prefer a little bit harder and a little bit more underground. So I think Australia's scene kind of mirrors a little bit more than what's going on in North America. I think you guys are a little bit more fluffy, a little bit more cheesy, but that's that's what I've noticed. The other thing is I think there's less of a rave culture in Australia. That's kind of disappeared now. It's well on the way out. So you don't get people dressing up in the fats and the giant bits of candy. That's very much an American thing. Yeah.
So what are the top 5 songs that you listen to on a daily basis? Regularly?
That's tough because I'm always trying to look for new music, and so I wouldn't say there's a top 5 of the day or even a top 5 of the week, because it shuffles so much. I've been listening to a new album from the Prototypes, which is a drum and bass group called City of Gold, and I've just been listening to that for the past few days. So it's really cool production. It's just different to what's normally going on in the hardstyle scene. But aside from that, it'd be better if I went through my phone, because that way you can really give an honest answer of what I've been listening to. Okay, let's take a look.
And where do you find your songs? SoundCloud?
SoundCloud, or just people recommendations and whatever. I've been listening to the Medean album, or Madaeon, or whatever. That's really cool. That's really fun.
Playing right now.
Oh man, is he?
Yep.
Oh,
we go check him out.
Yo, for sure. I think I like the Prodigy album, The Day's My Enemy. That was really cool. I saw them live, and the energy from their live shows was really, really sick. But at the same time, I don't necessarily listen to all intense kind of music as well. I listen to some IDM stuff. Like I've been listening to this group called Triphonic, and it's just a little bit more chilled out and whatever. So I switch it up. Listen to movie scores and whatever. I couldn't say, so to get back to the question, top 5 of the day, top 5 of the week, can't answer that, because it switches all the time. I listen to music that reflects my mood, and that changes all the time.
Well, hardstyle is one of the few genres that involve an MC.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about the presence of an MC during a set?
I think it's important, it's vital, if it's done well. Because there are some MCs, I'm not thinking necessarily hardstyle MCs, I'm thinking, just from listening to tape packs from drum and bass sets, from way back in the day, when they just like keep on going on and on, oh my gosh, no, it's too much. I think it's essential because it's something very, very fundamental about a person telling a crowd to do something and the crowd responding. That's it. At the end of the day, if it didn't work, people wouldn't do it, and people wouldn't aspire to be MCs. And I think there's definitely a place for them to be there. Now, how big of that role really depends on the MC, it depends on the night and those kinds of circumstances. But for me, I'm pro MC. I do it a bit myself, so it'd be silly to say no, because at the end of the day, music in a live setting doesn't speak for itself. It needs to have some more elements to it. Otherwise, why not just silent disco?
So, what has been your main inspiration and motivation? Or who has been your main inspiration and motivation?
I guess I think of things like from a musical production perspective. I don't really think too much about some people are like, oh yeah, I really want to follow this guy and be like this guy and aspire to end up like him in this goal. I don't necessarily think like that. I think music first. And, probably my main inspiration would be like Rob Swire from Knife Party and Pendulum, because I think he's just a fantastic producer. It's probably the main one that I sort of really keep up with what he's doing and just sort of I think he does a really good job. I just really enjoy his production. It's really cool.
So if you could collaborate with anyone?
I don't know. I think I'd probably work with musicians who don't do what I do. I think that's more important, because otherwise you get the too many chefs in the kitchen scenario, or you end up with the teacher-student scenario, and that's not so much collaboration. What I think would be really interesting is working with people from more live bands, or from hip-hop groups, or maybe somebody who does instrumentation or orchestration and big orchestra or something. Because I think that's more interesting for collaboration, rather than saying, okay, I want to work with Skrillex or Diplo or whatever, blah blah blah. I don't know. I think that's very one-dimensional. I think there's more to the world of music than that, and there could lead more interesting results from just saying, okay, I want to work with the guitarist from Slayer. That would be cool. That'd be different.
I like it.
That could lead into interesting things.
So you've made several official anthems for festivals.
Yeah.
Did you have a favorite to work on?
There's one actually that I've been asked to do, that I've had the ideas for the past few weeks, that I can't tell you which festival it is. I can't say. I've been working on it a little bit, and I've done a lot of planning and just been hearing how it's going in my head. So my favorite one is the one I haven't written yet. And so that sounds really cheesy, I know it does.
Are we going to hear it this year?
Yeah, you'll hear it this year. It's for a party that's a little bit later in the year, but that one's going to be really cool. So when you get those moments where you kind of hear everything in your head, and it's the pieces are all kind of put into place. You just got to assemble the rest of it in the studio. That's where I'm at with this one, and it's sounding cool. Yeah,
that's awesome.
But it doesn't always happen though. For example, when I worked on the Reverse anthem last year, there was a scenario with that where I basically had about a week and a half to do Guardians of Time that came out. And at the time, actually, when I finished it, I was like, it's okay, it's alright. The riff is pretty good. It was nice. It came out pretty nice. But the one that I'm writing now, I can't wait. Yeah, it's gonna be sick.
So, do you prefer to make originals or remixes?
Originals.
Originals?
Definitely. It's easier to make remixes, and what I like doing is approaching original songs as if they were remixes. Because when you're doing a remix, you've got pieces that you've got to assemble together, and that you've got to make something out of what's in front of you. When you've got an original track, or when you're doing an original track, it's a blank canvas, so you can do what you want, and it's a little bit more free, but that freedom can be intimidating. When with a remix, you're kind of like, well, I have to use this vocal, melody, blah, 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 whatever it is. And so what I've been trying to do is kind of assemble all those pieces beforehand, and then approach whatever construction it was as it was a remix, even though it would come out as an original track. Yeah.
So besides this this undisclosed anthem.
This unwritten, yeah.
What else are you working on?
Yeah, well, I've been working on an anthem for, an album. Anthem on the brain. I've been working on an album for the release of Quarter 3 this year. And yeah, it's basically like a follow-up to my debut album, Audioception. It's kind of like pretty much in the same vein, exploring different sounds and textures and just trying to educate people with different music styles that they probably wouldn't normally approach. And just have fun with it, and I think that's important. I'm an artist that really likes to think in terms of albums, like a collective project rather than singles, because when you're working on a single or just releasing singles, things can become a little bit too formularized, and I don't like that. I like to think of the big picture and then how to make that big picture interesting with all the separate elements, and that's yeah.
So when you aren't traveling or in the studio, how do you relax?
Anime.
Anime?
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite?
I've been watching Naruto, and I don't know if I like it. But mainly because a lot of the characters are douchebags, and I'm just working my way through it because I have to do it. It's one of those things. If you like anime, you kind of have to watch that series. So I've kind of been I've been trying to game as well. I've got a PS4, but I'm really bad. Like, I'm a total non-committal casual gamer, like as casual as it gets. I've been trying to do it. Like, I've been playing Destiny, and I'll go back to the studio. I'm the worst gamer. It's so bad.
So, do you ever see Hardstyle being on mainstream radio?
Well, it kind of was for a little bit on Dutch radio, with the stuff that Wild Stars was doing, like Eurosummer. I don't know if it's a good thing. It's good and it's bad, because on one hand it's a reflection of how successful something is, but on the other hand it can mean a diluting of the music, the purity of the genre, right? And when people sort of find a formula that works for radio and they stick to it, it really monopolizes the genre and turns it a bit one-dimensional. So it's good and bad. It's good for the scene to get exposure, and it can really help if people are like, I heard this song on the radio, it's hardstyle, let's find out some more, and then really start digging deep into the genre and discovering music that way. But the problem is, that isn't often the case. Some people hear it and they assume that one thing embodies all of the genre, and then other people try and copy the success of it. So it's a double-edged sword to have hardstyle on the radio. I think I don't know if it'll ever get onto North American mainstream radio, and in a way I kind of hope it doesn't, because I think having the kind of cooler, more secluded underground element is probably better for the variety of the genre, and I think that's important. That if a genre becomes too one-dimensional, it gets boring and it dies. So the more variety the better, and having room to have the variety is important, and you can have that room when it isn't commercial.
So that's where you see hardstyle going in the next few years? More originality, more...
No, actually, I don't. What I think is happening is, and I kind of said this about 2 years ago, there's a big divide now between what's happening with what they call the euphoric style, which I think is a silly label, and the raw style. And my gut tells me it's going to follow what happened to hardcore in the 90s. And what happened to hardcore is it used to be one big thing, and then it sort of turned off into the radio-friendly stuff, and then there was the harder underground stuff that got faster and darker and so on and so forth. And that's kind of happening, where you have the more radio-friendly stuff, and then you've got the harder and darker, and now faster stuff. And so I think that it's kind of dividing itself in probably not the best way. It's important for artists who have their own sounds to have their own sounds and develop their own sounds. But like I said before, it's very important not to become one-dimensional. And when it splits off and becomes one-dimensional, as it is now, so you've got the raw style being one-dimensional in one way, and the euphoric stuff being one-dimensional in one way, that's not good. What I would like to see happen is that more people would experiment with taking the fundamentals of what the genre used to be about, and then reinterpreting that in an interesting way. Because what hardstyle was originally about, it was ex-hardcore DJs, so people like The Prophet, people like Dana and Pablo. They said, like, okay, we're done with hardcore now, we're tired of it, we want to slow it down, make music that's friendly for the festivals and for the clubs, and they started about 138 kind of BPM, even slower actually. There's older hardstyle tracks that were kind of slower. But it was about tough music, but it was still fun to dance to. But still a little bit accessible. And so what I would like to see happen is that, okay, you've got one side here that's become euphoric, and you've got the other side here that's become super raw. And then hopefully a third island, will sort of pop up saying, okay, you two are kind of doing your things, but there's good stuff in both, and we don't have to be either camp.
Right.
But it can be still friendly, and it can still be energetic, and it can still be tough, and make that kind of music, because that's what needs to happen. That's what it used to be. So I think we should go back to those fundamentals.
So if you have a message to the young producers, the up-and-coming producers, what would it be?
That's tough, man. I think the most important thing is find out who you are first. It's important to follow, to be inspired, but not to clone. So find out who you are, don't clone, and then develop yourself. That's probably what I think. It's the world of music is so big. I think it's silly to sort of just clone whatever's cool at the moment. Even though that's kind of part of human nature. It's as a musician you want to grow above that, so that you can have your fan base for who want you for who you are, rather than anything else.
All right, and lastly, if you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Oh, this is a tough one, man. I mean, there's so
Think
many.
about what has been going on today.
Oh, dude, yeah, I know. Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, this is the thing. Like, where does it end? Because there's Franklin Richards with his reality warping. I mean, that's like the be all and end all of superpowers, reality warping. But I think time travel is pretty good. I'd settle for time travel if I had to choose one.
Would you go back or forward, or both?
No, but you're always going forward in time. It's always go back. The ability to go back in time is what you want. The ability to go forward in time, who wants that? I'll go forward 1 billion years to where the Earth is just a big ball of lava. No, man. No, you want to go fix mistakes of the past. That's what you want. Back in time, every time.
Awesome. All right, thank you. You've been a pleasure. Can't wait for later tonight.
Cheers, man. Thank you.